Welcome to Colin's Conversations. I always let the guests introduce themselves, let everybody know who you are, a little bit about the beginning days, and kind of moving into what you're doing now.
All right, so hello everybody. My name is Francesca Raoelison. I'm originally from Madagascar, and right now I'm a student at Brown University, and I'm the founder of UMIN, which is a nonprofit organization that seeks to prevent and break the cycle of emotional abuse, not only in my country, Madagascar, but starting a movement all around the world.
And let's go back to Madagascar, a place that I've never even thought about traveling to. For somebody, the average stupid American, because we're so bad with geography in general, what can you tell us about life in Madagascar?
Yeah, so it's beautiful. I usually when I tell people about Madagascar, they refer it to the movie. Have you seen the movie, by the way?
I have seen the movie Madagascar.
Yeah, so it's not like that. It's a beautiful island. It's off the coast of Africa, and it's we do have cities, we do have beautiful beaches, and we do have the best fauna and flora in the world. And yeah, I just invite you to look into it more. Maybe Google, or you can go on Netflix or National Geographic. It's wonderful, and if you get the chance, please come visit us.
How long is the plane ride from Madagascar to say Brown University?
So last time was almost a day, half a day. So I had to stop in France, but I think overall it's like less than a day. Yeah.
Gotcha. And what made you get out of Madagascar and come to America?
Yeah, so it was my dream. I When I was growing up, I was watching, American shows, and it was kind of like the American dream to even speak English and to come here and to study basically here. I always was passionate about psychology, and in my country was a little bit new, and I was like, I want to go there. I want to speak English, and I want to continue and maybe leave my American dream. I didn't know what it was yet, but I just knew I wanted to go here.
And you said American dream. What would be somebody coming from a small island off the coast of Africa, moving all the way here? What is your goal? And are you going to go back there once you're done with school?
Yeah, so like I said, it was just this dream of being able to even speak English in the first place and just travel and visit. And most of the things that we saw on TV was about America. So yeah, it was just going there. That's like the dream. That would have been the dream. But yeah, I would love to be able to go back and forth from here and Madagascar and be able to help as much as I can based on what I've learned here and basically give back to my community back home, which I'm already doing, but doing more of that.
Absolutely. And you've mentioned that kind of the goal is to learn to speak English. How long have you been working on learning English?
When we were back home, we did, an hour, 2 hours a week. And when I came here, that's when I started learning. That was back in 2014, so almost 6 years. And yeah, I took SEL, what is it called again? Second English as a second language, ESL. Sorry, not SEL, ESL. English as a second language for a year, I think, and then that's when I started taking credit classes. That's how they call it. And I started taking psychology and all my major basically. But yeah, almost for a year, I learned English.
Well, that's fantastic because you already speak way better than I do.
Excuse me, I'm still working on it, but yeah, thank you.
I took Spanish in high school for 4 years, and I thought that I did good, and I don't know anything. I still remember vocabulary, but putting together thoughts and all the different things. Anybody
Oh
that
my
can
gosh.
in any different language, whether it's learning English, Spanish, Cantonese, anything,
Yeah.
ability to know two languages, I'm always impressed at. The way that you could kind of go back and forth is amazing.
I'll tell you something. When I was in high school, we were supposed to choose between Spanish and German, and all the people in my family took German. Nobody told me that it was like really hard, so I took it anyway. I took it for until I graduated, and then all my friends who took Spanish, they are so fluent in it, and I can't even keep up a conversation. Like even I took like 4 years, and I can't even hold a conversation, which is really sad. But I wish someone told me that it was a little bit hard. A little bit is like an understatement, but yeah.
Language of Madagascar is Marina. Marina is am I pronouncing that right?
Malagasy?
Malagasy.
Yes.
Thanks, Google. You failed me. Um,
Usually people say Madagascan. It's not Madagascan, it's Malagasy. And people are called Malagasy as well. Language is Malagasy, and we do speak French as well. We have been colonized by French.
I find that so interesting about kind of, I'm sure other cultures do it too, not just America, but like we go to find a country and we're going to call the country something else, call the people and the language all different things than like what the people actually there call it. It's such a baffling experience. Like, why wouldn't we just pronounce it however they pronounce it, even if it's difficult? Wouldn't that make more
Yeah,
sense?
it is. And maybe it's the fact that it's called Madagascar, and people just want to, like American. So Madagascan, which I understand, but it's Malagasy. So if someone is watching out there, like please call us Malagasy. Yeah, it will mean a lot because it shows that you are being sensitive a little bit. Thank you.
Right. And what was the biggest cultural, other than language, obviously, because we know that's a huge difference. But once you got into America, what was one of the big culture shocks? What was kind of the thing that was hard for you
Food.
to get used to?
The
Food?
food, like you see it on TV, it's like it looks so delicious and huge. It is huge, but the taste for me was not there. And I feel like the fact that I've like countries in my like Madagascar where food is almost organic and it's delicious. Like it's small, but it's so delicious. And then once you come here, I don't know, maybe I had just had so much expectation. I went to McDonald's for the first time. I was like, I had some, yeah, it was not, yeah, the food was a little bit disappointing.
Yeah, I always say I love doing road trips. Kind of just get in the car and just like you can go 3,000 miles that way, 1,000 miles that way. It's fantastic. But I wish off the interstate we had things that weren't just McDonald's, weren't just Burger King, all those. Instead, get a mom and pop shop because, like you said, if you have McDonald's, you're like, oh, this is plain. It doesn't really have much flavor. Or then you go get a hamburger at a local diner and they throw a whole bunch of different ingredients. You're like, wow, this hamburger is amazing.
Yeah, but I'm sure that in some places they do have like really tasty food. It's just like the place where I was, I didn't get to experience that much of that. But that, yeah, I think that was the first culture shock that I had, the food.
And what type of, is there a particular dish from back home that you kind of really wish that there was a place that had it everywhere here?
Yes, it's a typical dish in my country. It's called Rav Ravtutsi and it's like pork with this type of how can I say it, mashed herbs. I don't know how it's called here. It's a leaf. Oh my gosh, I don't. I have like a brain fart right now, but it's from like a leaf, and we do find it in at some uh, Asian groceries. But I wish we could have more of that here.
I'll have to look that one up. It sounds interesting.
Yeah, and
Um,
we do eat a lot of rice as well. That's our thing. I mean, that's my thing. Every time we have something here, I'm like, I need my rice, and my friends are like laughing. They're like, "You're not in Madagascar anymore." I'm like, still, I like my rice.
you can still get rice everywhere. That's all right.
Yeah.
And what brought you to Brown University? I mean, we have 8 million schools. Was it a scholarship? Was it something just about what they offered? What brought you to Brown University?
Okay, long story. Let me try to get back. So, I came here. I went to a community college in Northern Virginia. And like I told you, I took ESL. And then after that, I'm international student. So it's kind of expensive to go to school here. We need to pay 2 to 3 times what Americans pay. And then at some point, I didn't have money anymore. I was working 3 jobs on the side. And then at the end, I graduated and I was like, I don't have no more money. How can I continue my education? And then I was even thinking about doing my my associate again with another major, but I was like no. And my one of my professors told me about this scholarship. It's called the Jack Kent Cook Transfer Scholarship. And at that time, I was just looking at the application. It was like, I think, 10 pages. And I was like, okay, let me try to go through this. And I went through it. And then at the end, I got it. And one of the requirements that they wanted me to do is to apply for a top school. And I looked at I found this program at Brown. It's for it's called RU program. It's for people who have been in and out of school, and I thought that that would be like a perfect program for me, and that's how I applied. It's a tiny program for people, I would say, who are non-traditional, I would say, in their path. And yeah, that's how I applied, and then I got in, and that's how I got into Brown.
And do you like it there? Do you wish you would have went to another school? How's life been since you started there?
I love it. I think it's one of the best choices that I've taken in my life. One of them, and I just the fact that they have been very welcoming, the fact that they are really understanding, and the community that I found here has been helping me not only transferring but really reaching, I would say, my full potential in terms of even being able to pursue what I dreamed, or something that I'm passionate about. So really, that has been one of my best choices so far.
You're studying sociology, organizational studies, which I think could make you have a very interesting perspective of this question that has kind of worked its way into every interview since I first heard about it. And the question
Mm.
is, what is something that you believe to be true that others people would either believe to be false or just strongly disagree with your stance?
With my stance, well, um, hmm. That's a deep question. So just going back into why I chose sociology just a little bit, I chose BEO. It's called BEO, Business Organization and Entrepreneurship, Business Entrepreneurship and Organization. Sorry, and it was dissolving. I mean, it is dissolving here at Brown right now. So that's why I'm taking the path that is more sociology, which I think is a good continuation of what I did in community college, which was psychology, and now I'm going into sociology, which is broader, but I think it's still really interesting. And then I'm doing an entrepreneurship track as well, certificate. So on the stance, can you give me like an example? Let's say, what about you? And then maybe I'm gonna get inspired, because right now I don't have anything in mind.
See, this is what I love about this question is almost every person I've asked it to has the exact same, like you look up in the corner, you're like, huh, there's so many ways you could take this one. Um, Going back with the root of the question, something that you believe to be true that other people might not agree with, that it's essentially kind of like that hot sparking kind of, where do you really think, like the first initial thought is what I'll go with. And what I would say that I believe to be true that most people don't is that I believe that companies should give a 5-cent raise per week to all employees. I think that people should start
Mm,
off making next to no money, whatever minimum wage you want to put it at, $8, $9 even. But every week, as long as you are on time, as long as you have done whatever tasks that are involved with the job, you get a 5-cent raise. It seems like nothing, but something like
mm,
that, opposed to people thinking, and what made me think about this is a lot of people right now are up in arms of the $15 minimum wage hike that they're trying to get up to. Which, can people live on that $8, $9, or the federal I think is still like 7? Absolutely not. You cannot do that. You live, unless you're living with like 4 people that are all doing that and you're all kicking in. But I think where people lose that is if you started a job that had next to no money, and you knew every week, as long as you did your job, you showed up, you get 5 cents more. By the end of the year, you'll be making $12 if you started at $9, or whatever the numbers are, to where, and that will continue until availability of inflation, all those fun things that you could take to. But that's a concept that I think would work really well. That a lot of people like, why would I give somebody a 5-cent raise a week? That's ridiculous. So that's where I
okay.
personally would take that question today.
Okay. So now I understand the question better. I thought it was more like a belief, and then, okay. So more practically. Okay. So I believe that schools everywhere should give social emotional learning as a curriculum, really part of the curriculum in the school, to allow students to build more empathy towards each other. And that's something that I haven't seen many schools apply that into their curriculum. And yeah, I think it would have so many benefits, not only in building people resilience, sense of emotional intelligence, and being able to navigate the world with that tool.
Yeah, I would definitely agree with that one. Where a lot of people think, no, they need to learn history and science and math, and
Yeah.
a typical American will graduate high school not knowing how to do their taxes, not knowing how to buy a car, not knowing how to fix the car, not knowing how to make their food. Like we don't learn any real skills. Where I think
Exactly.
if take elementary school, the kindergarten through fifth grade, if they focused on what you just said, for those years, you're just learning about physical body,
Mm.
nutrition, how
Mm-hmm.
to, like you said, be empathetic, how to treat people, how to make friends, how to build relationships. Then you get into middle
Exactly.
school, you learn how to do practical jobs. You get into high school, you learn a little bit of math, a little bit of these other things. And then when you really want to get more educated, you go to college, you go to a university, community
Mm-hmm.
college. That's where you'd focus on science, all the abstract things,
Yeah.
and you'd
Yeah.
actually be a developed human being. So like, there's a lot of things around education that you can
Yeah.
develop. So
Yeah. Research shows that like really social emotional learning can help build healthier, build more resilient, and also, on the job, when you really get into the job, those skills, that's how you build relationships and how you maintain and how you make things happen, basically. But so little of what we give in school are not focused on that, unfortunately.
and how does the schooling and educational system in Madagascar differ from in America? Is it a completely separate system, or is it kind of a familiar thing?
I would say it's similar. Maybe the design is not really the same, but I would say that it's the way you said it, like compared it to American education, you mean?
Yeah, like do you guys have like a elementary, middle school, high school, college, like the
Yeah.
same set up
Yes.
in different curriculum, or how does
It's
school
the
work in
same. It's
Madagascar?
the same logic, but it's not called like middle school. It's called differently. We follow a French system, I would say, the one that I went into, the public, similar, yeah, kind of similar. You go to, yeah, it's kind of like middle. I don't know how to explain it. I have to use like French words, but yeah, it's almost the same logic, but the way we are tested, for example, is not the same. We don't do multiple choice. We have like that dissertation. We have presentation. It's less focused on memorizing things. It's more how to think critically and apply that. Like most of what I had, for example, in community college is just like true, false, and it's not really like that there.
Gotcha. So let's move away from school. Another cool thing on your resume per se is that you've been pretty involved with the Clinton Foundation. What can you tell me about that?
Okay, so that's a funny story too. When I was in community college, it was in Virginia, like I said, and I've never been outside of Virginia back then. And I saw this, announcement at school, and it was like looking for social entrepreneurs for the Clinton Global Initiative, and it would be in Boston, and they would basically would be free. So I was like, oh, I've never been in Boston. Let me just apply. So I just applied, and they were just looking for someone with a project, a proposal. And at that time, I started thinking about a project that I wanted to basically link with what I just told you earlier. Not really social emotional learning, teaching that in school, but more focused on teaching young people about alcohol, about healthy relationships. So things that I learned in my community college. I was a sexual assault peer educator in my campus, and I wanted to bring that back in Madagascar. And I thought that having that could prevent domestic violence, basically. So that was my project, my initial project that I was suggesting to the Clinton Foundation. And then a couple of months later, they came back to me and they're like, out of 1,000 students, we chose you. And come. And I'm like, oh, my first trip, solo trip. So yeah, that's how I ended up there. And since then, I've been involved in terms of providing them with feedback on their what is it, curriculum for entrepreneurs, social entrepreneurs, and yeah, it has been a great community of support, and also a lot of just mentoring, I would say, from people who have done it before as well.
Um, let's see, where do we want to go from there? You have so many cool different areas that we could take this interview. It's so much better than when you're like, oh, well, we could talk about music or whatever else. Let's go into the big thing that you have going, because we definitely want to give as much time to this as possible. You have a nonprofit organization. What can you tell us about it?
So much. Okay, so it started with the, like I told you, the Clinton Foundation. It started there, and that idea of fighting against abuse and violence. That how it all started. But now that I'm thinking back, it was more focused on another form of abuse that people don't often talk about, which is emotional abuse and psychological abuse. And actually, I want to ask you: is that something that you often hear, emotional or psychological abuse?
I think that in the last few years, it's been a much more commonly talked about, both male and female. I think,
Hmm.
especially in America, you have that kind of mentality of I'm a guy, I'm just stone faced, no
Yeah,
emotion, heart,
yeah,
manly man.
yeah.
I think nowadays it's a much more common topic of, or even jobs now are giving emotional health days where it used to just be actual sick leave.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. So that's something that here I saw that it's starting a little bit, but in so many other countries where actually emotional abuse is the norm. When I say the norm, is the social norm where people don't even think that it's a problem in the first place. So I saw that in my country. I was going through my training as an educator in my community college, and I learned about the signs of what's emotional abuse basically. And that was an eye opener for me because that's when I was like, oh my gosh, all my life that's what I was going through, or that was my life, my usual life, but I never realized it was a problem until I knew it was a problem. And that's the first thing because I didn't have the vocabulary to put on that type of behaviors or act. And then when I learned about it, I started to realize so many things. I went through like frustration, realization, being angry at myself, being angry at, even my parents at some point. But then I realized that actually they went through something similar. Through my research, I found out that it was a cycle, that someone who has experienced that type of abuse is always more likely to do the same thing to the next generation. And it was more a feeling of empathy that I had after that. And through my research, I also found that in Madagascar, 80% of children go through the same thing, which is 80%. Can you imagine? It's almost 9 million of children going through that. And that's not even the thing. Like emotional abuse is one thing, but once you look at the consequences that can have on someone's sense of identity, dignity, self-esteem, mental health, and how it can affect one person. And if you really look, like if you try to use that same I would say theory on the whole country, how would the economy, the development of a country would be? And some of my thought was like, maybe that's why our country is like that we're still like in development basically. And I looked into it and I talked to many psychologists, and most of the answers that I got was yes, that can be one of the reasons why. So that's why I'm all about talking about it, first of all, to let people know that it is a problem. And then once people know that it's a problem, they can see the consequences, because if they do see the consequences but they don't even know what's the root of it, then it would be half we wouldn't be able to address the real problem. So we are trying to raise awareness not only around the problem, but opening conversations around the consequences of emotional abuse, and try to help people gain their agency back, and really to provide them with more support tools so that they are able to, reach their full potential. Because at the end of the day, that's what's most affected once they go through that type of abuse.
And you mentioned that it's kind of just a cycle that one generation kind of almost hands down the abuse like it's a family relic.
Yeah.
Is in your research, has there been anything that you've kind of been able to find a correlation of a way that people could kind of break that cycle and get away from it?
Yeah, so it's healing, basically healing, knowing that it's the problem that they are going through it, and now being, first of all, self-aware that it happened to them, and being consciously and voluntarily wanting not to reproduce that. So going into the, because people do it without even noticing that they are replicating the same thing in the next generation. So that's what we do at Women. We're trying to break it with us because we are more aware now. And I think all of the people that we have been able to touch with our mission now they have another lens when it comes to like seeing someone trying to abuse someone else, or even being aware of ourselves being abusing ourselves with, you know, negative thoughts, or just like seeing that in other relationships. So I think that's the first step, letting people know about it. And one of the solutions that we are also suggesting is to provide people with tools based on social emotional learning, like I told you earlier, because when people know their own emotions, when they're allowed to express them, to see the same emotions in other people, they create like more, they build more empathy, and they are able to say and be like more empathetic and be more kind to one another. And that's where emotional abuse is most of the time, because we're not able to express ourselves in healthier ways, in ways that are like mean, in ways that are making people feel that they are not enough. So all of that, we're trying to provide those tools and that awareness, and that type of like, oh, it's time to think about how we are behaving towards ourselves, but also towards other people's, with our words or with our negligence or silence sometimes, like you said earlier, when men think that, you know, society says that they cannot express their emotions, which is totally wrong in the way we think at Omen. Everyone has emotions, and they should be allowed to express them.
You mentioned part of the main focus of the organization is to get the tools and awareness out. What specific tools and what specific mediums are you guys using for awareness and education?
Yeah, so we're providing. So before COVID, we ran so we've been running for a year and almost a year and a half now. We just started, and actually, can I just share a little bit about how it started? It was me talking for the first time about emotional abuse being normalized in my country. And when I did, I made a speech about it and the vision that Umena had. And at that time, I was like, I was very worried because I didn't want to trash my country and be like, in my country, emotional abuse is normalized. But then I thought about it and I was like, but people need to know. So I did the video, and I was hoping that people would join the movement of awareness and would join the team. And it exceeded my expectation because the video went viral in my country, not just in my country, but in other developing countries, where people could finally, I think, put a name on something that they went through. And yeah, they started to reach out, and that's how we have the whole movement of awareness going on. But we also offer the tools, like I told you, to try to prevent that. So we do that by going into the schools and provide workshops, and also support groups to people going through the same thing, providing them a space where they feel that they belong, they feel that their emotions are valid, and that they feel their whole experience is valid, and that it's possible to heal from it, and that we should end all of it with us. So that's what we have done on the ground. But when COVID happened, we had to switch everything in online mode. So we have been held in a lot of Zoom calls, a lot of support group through Zoom. But I think the fact that people know that if people are joining Umen, it's because they have, in a way or another, experienced it. And in a way or another, everybody has experienced it as a bystander, or as as someone who was a perpetrator without even knowing it. So most of the people, sometimes they go through our support group and realize that they have done that to someone else around them, and they acknowledge that they've done it without knowing it. So now they want to end it with them basically, and we have that support group to tell other people that it's okay to realize it, but now we're trying to all work towards breaking that cycle.
My light broke. One
Ooh.
second.
No problem.
Yo, light. Awesome. Gotta love technology. It's great till it isn't.
Yeah.
So you said you're going into schools. What age group is your main target? Are you going for like really early or kind of all ranges?
So we're doing both. So when we ran our first pilot program, we went into, first of all, private school, public school, and children on the streets. So we are not really going to a formal school. And we had that category of children from 6 to 12, and then we had another category of children in high school. So the one in earlier was about emotional intelligence. It was talking about the different emotions, letting them know what are the different emotions, and the other one was about encouraging them to foster a support group, not support group, but a support system where we would encourage them to have 5 people in their lives where they would tell whatever was happening, and that it's okay to share whatever is happening, because yeah, like you said, trying to change that culture of holding back and not being able to share their emotions because people think it's weak, and we're trying to change that and let people know that actually it's healthy, it's strong to do that. And that's what we have done with that category of children. And for the ones in high school, we talked about the signs of healthy relationships. So it was more let's build healthier relationships. What are the signs of healthier relationships? And we would hear based on their stories that most of them were in very toxic relationships, and they thought that it was actually normal, a boyfriend that is not allowing you to talk to other girls, or like, give me your password, otherwise it means that you don't love me. So all of that, we tried to like have really candid conversation around it, but also giving them the tools that those are actually healthy relationships. How do you foster those healthy relationships? Yeah.
And is in my guesstimation, I'm guessing that the younger kids are more receptive and the teenagers are a little bit less likely to kind of talk to you guys when you come in, or am I wrong with that guess?
Actually, that was my guess too, but then we were wrong because all of them were really, really excited to talk about it. And I think it all came down with us allowing them to be vulnerable and starting being vulnerable ourselves, and making them feel that it was okay to share in the type of space that we had, and that it was a safe and brave space. And that right after I was sharing my own story, they would come to me and they would share their own. And like I told you, I think 70% of them did end up telling me that they were in very toxic relationships, whether in their friendships or in their romantic relationship.
Let's kind of go with a buzzword type thing. What are 3 to 4 ways to spot that you're in a toxic relationship?
Okay, so I would say control. Most of the time, people come from a place of wanting to keep the power. So you go and then you try to control everything, and based on that control, you would want to isolate the other person. And yeah, that's the base of most of the emotional abuse type of behaviors. And then words that are diminishing, humiliation, what is it, humiliation, intimidation, manipulation, all of that are also forms of ways to make someone feel small and belittle them basically. And yeah, most of the time those are like what you see most of the time.
And once you've noticed it, it kind of what are your professional advice of somebody getting out of that kind of toxic kind of they've realized they're in a place they shouldn't be, but a lot of people, like you always hear the story about a woman that's been beat by the same guy 40 times but won't leave.
Yeah.
Kind of, is it just that developing that support that you mentioned earlier to kind of have those 5 or 6 people you could lean to then, or what are the ways to get out of that situation?
So most of the time, like I told you earlier, people usually don't realize that they are being abusive. Sometimes they just do it because they think that's love. Like being jealous, being like overprotective is the form of love, but actually it's a form of control. And most of the time, the person don't realize that they are doing it. So one of the ways that we usually tell people, or the steps, the advice that we give is to have a conversation with that person and letting them know, putting boundaries. That's the first step, like letting the person know that, hey, this is like, I don't know, it depends on their relationship, but for example, the fact that the person is too intrusive in their relationship and putting that boundary there. And most of the time when it's a healthy person, when I say healthy versus toxic behaviors, so when that person is healthy, they're gonna understand that boundary and they're gonna respect it. But in other cases, the person don't understand and don't accept it, and they continue. They start pushing that boundary and continue being very abusive. And at that time, the person can try to reinforce that boundary again, but then at some point, the person has to decide to leave or to to stay. And like you said earlier, in that cycle of abuse, most of the time the person knows, when they know, when they are narcissistic especially, they know that they are being abusive, and they know that if they will tell the person that they will change, the person will stay. So once they are being abusive, and then the person put the boundary and they say they will change, and then you see that cycle, the person try to like ask for forgiveness, and they try their best again to make it all work, but then it is a cycle. They continue being abusive, and at some point the person who is abused has the click and is like, actually he's never going to change, or she's never going to change. And then that's when they decide to leave. Or like you said, there is a financial abuse, where the person cannot leave the relationship because they are too financially dependent. So that's why they stay. They don't know where to go. That's where that the support system comes into play, because if the person leaves, the person don't want to leave because they don't know where to go. But if they do have that system that would understand what's happening, then they can leave and try to build themselves again, which is another story, because they will go through healing. They will go through all of the trauma that the person has gone through, and try to really build themselves. And it's hard and it's scary, and people don't want to do that most of the time. That's why they stay in that relationship.
It all makes sense. I was wondering why you were talking. Is there a difference in theory as you go country to country on these things, or is it all pretty much universally, the theory is all universally accepted?
So I've been able to talk to a lot of psychologists about it, and I've read books, and it everything that I read or everything that I heard, I could see it when I was sharing or when I do my workshops, and I hear from people from Canada the same experience that they have in Madagascar. So I would think that now, based on all the conversation that I have, it's pretty much universal in terms of going through that type of abuse. And maybe it would be based on, it would be more exacerbated because of poverty or because of the culture in the country, but the way it shows and the way the person feels about it is the same.
I want to cover a little bit of um, says you're muted. I wonder if we're recording anything that you're saying.
I was grabbing some water and then it was
Gotcha.
making a lot of sound.
No problem. I just looked over. I was like, I wonder how long that's been up there. I did the same thing when the dogs were going nuts just a minute ago. But something that I'm always interested to, because we could talk about what you were just talking about for like 18,000 days. But
Yeah.
once you decided to make it into not only a belief and then a school that you were going to go learn, but then you made an organization. How did you put a name on the organization? How did you pick the name?
Yeah. I was thinking about this, and I don't have it with me, but I have, when I went through the the Clinton Global Initiative, I had an idea of how I would call it. So at that time it was just like a, let me show you. It was just like a O, as in it was just someone holding a card, a red card. So in my country, red flags are also understood as red cards, and it's like stop to abuse. And Umen, if you look at the logo, Have you seen the logo of Umin?
Mhm.
So it's like a O, and then inside of the O, you can see someone holding a red card, basically, that said stop. And umen is a play of words in my native language. Umena means give, provide, and mena, the second part of the, which is in black. I think in black, yeah. It's in white, black. Oh my gosh, I don't know anymore. But the mena part means red. So in this context, providing students, young people, tools so that they can spot the red flags ahead of time when it comes to unhealthy behaviors and relationships. Yeah.
That's awesome. I knew there had to be some sort of like meaningful thing within there.
Yeah.
Is soccer? We'll call it soccer, but is football a big thing? Is like when I hear red card, I think of soccer. Is
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
kind
Yeah.
of like tying that all together?
Yes, yes, and we do watch a lot of soccer, and we it has been one of the things that has brought the country together at some point with AFCON. I don't know if you are you watching soccer?
Not at all.
Yeah, but yeah, it's a big thing over there, and yeah, it's red card meaning that you're out, or like red cards that students use to say stop to violence.
Gotcha. And as as a nonprofit, you definitely want to focus on awareness more than say an artist. But what are some ways as a nonprofit that you've tried to help get the awareness out as far as marketing, branding, promotion, and stuff?
Yeah, like what we're doing right now. The fact that I reached out to you and that you answered positively, helping more people, I think, to get the word out and to let people know, because it's not the in some country, like I said, it's more prevalent and it's more normalized, but it exists everywhere in the world, in the US, everywhere. And it's not just for underprivileged population, it's for everybody. It's emotional and psychological abuse is so subtle that sometimes you can't even see it. And we talked about emotional abuse in romantic relationships, like that's how usually people think about it, but actually it can happen everywhere. When you think about your work, like how your boss is treating you sometimes, or how that type of imbalance, when the power, sometimes, most of the time, that's how people use their power and try to abuse other people. But actually it doesn't have to be that way all the time. So that's why we're trying to raise more awareness around this. And I'm sure that based on the things that I just shared with you today, someone is going to see themselves in something that I shared today. And hopefully it will help them, have that technique and try to also raise awareness around them as well, so that that's why I think we are starting this movement of awareness and this movement of hope and empathy that we're trying to build around us as well. And I think everyone should be part of it, because it's 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 something that is going to change a lot of relationships overall, and we are 100% of the time in relationships in everything we do. So yeah.
Why is there not a podcast for the organization?
Because we just started and we need someone like you to help us, like, have those type of conversations. I'm still like focusing on the whole structure right now, and that will come. I'm sure it will come very soon. We're trying to still have stronger grounds and stronger structure to be able to continue what we do, because everyone in our organization right now is a volunteer, me included for now. So yeah, anything that can help us raise awareness, we are always grateful to have them. So thank you.
Yeah, I definitely think especially if there's so many ways that you could take a podcast for your organization. Not only could you do just awareness of the organization, but you could have the same thing we're doing here, just record a Zoom call with you talking to an expert on any of the things that interest you for the week or the month or however often. And
Yeah.
the ability to, like I said earlier before we started like fully rolling on this, is once you have an hour of somebody that really is passionate about what they're talking about and knows what they're talking about, like yourself, mixed with another guest, you have 20 or 30 clips that every day that you could pump out on the different social medias or your websites,
True.
press releases. And then it's just that constant way of, if you want to think of awareness, you're like, oh, well, every day. You could also do, instead of a long form, you could do an everyday 1 minute, 2 minute, 5 minute, just piece of
Yeah.
advice or a conversation clip of just
Yeah.
whatever way you want to take it, but to have that
That's so
thing that
right.
somebody that's following you on social media or is volunteering, they could just know to look for it every day for that bit of inspiration or just
Mm.
I think there's so many ways you could take it to not only get the awareness, but then also once you get a bit of a following behind that, and you start to throw up either sponsorships or donations,
Mm.
it's another way to get funding for all the different initiatives that you have.
Love that. Thank you so much for the tips. And I know this is not going into the recording, but do you also mind like sharing this recording with me so that maybe I can do that on my side as well to start?
Yeah,
That's
absolutely.
that's some, you know, I think that that was my excuse, which I think is not valid anymore. In my mind it's like I need lights, I need like good like a long and good great content, but actually like you said, like just a minute of me being able to share something that will bring value to the people. Yeah, yeah, the time to do that, that's my, yeah.
Yeah, so many people have that exact thought. And granted, I guess I shouldn't be giving this exact talk when I have a photography
Hmm.
like there and a backdrop and all the other things, but it didn't start off with all that. It started off with
Hmm.
just a cell phone and a microphone and just kind of interviewing the people that were local that I thought were interesting or local businesses, local musicians. And then once I got sick of tearing apart my living room, then it became, all right, let's start to build a little bit in the basement, then make it actually like a home studio type environment. But it doesn't
Gotcha.
have to start with that because a podcast or social media, like it doesn't have to be 100% produced to get the message across. As long as there's clear audio and you could see a person or put just do the music visualization, screw
Hmm.
that word up every time, but kind of just have the graphic and the little audio spectrum going, and you can make so much extra content around it, which I think
Yeah,
is really the goal of what you're trying to do. And then once you get good at it and you get better at it, that's when more money comes into it and you could pump that into doing
true.
different programs.
That's so true. Thank you for that. I appreciate. Are you also helping people with their social media management?
I do a little bit of everything. So this is the
Mm,
Colin's Conversations podcast, and it's part of my marketing brand, Colin Can Help, which
mm,
aims to get artists, small businesses, and the small guy kind of start off. If
mm,
you have zero budget, we teach you the courses or the articles of this is what you should do, free consultation, give you the
mm-hmm,
tools. You have a little bit of a budget, you do a little bit, I do a little bit. You have a big budget, I do
mm,
it all for you. So kind of the way that not everybody has a ton of money to start a business and marketing wise, where my background came from was I was a landscape owner operator, and just scaling that business with the labor force is just a pain. But I was
mm,
always able to keep myself employed for 10 years. Always did the websites, the marketing. So why
mm,
not take those tools and give them to everybody else? So yeah, that's where
mm,
kind of all that came in. And that's where the podcast started, was when I could talk to a different musician this day, small business person that day. Today I'm talking with a nonprofit person. So I'm able to then, when another client comes in and they have a question about how do I do something for my nonprofit or how do I do something for this, I'm then able to take the recollection of the conversation I had, and then also it builds that relationship. We just sat here and talked for an hour. The next person that has a podcast question, you're like, oh, I talked to this bald guy over here in Ohio that he'll be able to get you some information the same way. I'm like, oh,
mm,
if you need some sort of school program, give them
mm-hmm,
a call. So
yeah,
the way the also the nice thing about a podcast is it's got me personally into rooms I probably shouldn't have been in.
mm,
Different level, high level executives or owners that if I went to a coffee shop and was like, "Can I talk to the owner about this cup of coffee?" They'd be like, "Get out of here, kid. Thanks
mm,
for your purchase, but keep it moving." But when you're able to approach an expert, a Nobel Prize winner in your case, somebody that's got credentials in the field, even if they don't know if you have 5 listeners or 5,000, but
mm,
it's an honor to be like, oh, they're going to take time to broadcast me, to promote me, let me put my message in a
yeah,
long form thing. So it's a nice way to build new relationships. And,
mm,
and even if you're a small organization, you could have a lot bigger presence with a good website, a podcast, and
mm-hmm,
regular social media. You look like
yeah.
you're all paid instead of all volunteers.
Mhm. True. Yeah. Yeah. And I'm just so grateful for all of the people who have, believed in the mission and started to join. And even if they didn't know exactly how they would want to get involved, like you said, like they would help create some content and just help us put that out. So, yeah, definitely having volunteers for now and making it look like we're paying to get what we do. So yeah, I'm just like really grateful for all of them.
Another option while I was thinking about kind of what you do to kind of help you on your side promote what you're doing is everybody loves a challenge, whether it's a TikTok challenge, Instagram challenge. You put the
Yeah.
word challenge, people do the stupidest things or actually take time to do good things.
Yeah.
But if you kind of made like the whatever hashtag challenge that you want to call
Mhm.
it, but have somebody do a 30-second video of how did you have this type of emotional abuse and how did you overcome it, or kind of that's just
Mm.
almost like a testimonial story of kind of just somebody that wants to bring awareness in their own way, but tying
Mm.
it together with some sort of social campaign that
Mhm.
brings it back to your page, or guarantee that if you do this, we'll reshare it on our platform, and kind of just
Yeah.
another way to build a community while also
Yeah.
building content. It's kind of,
Mhm.
it's all about that
True.
two birds, one stone. Why
Yeah.
do one day for content and one day for
Mhm.
mission when you can do them both?
Yeah. We've done a couple of those, and that's how I think we had like very natural following based on those type of challenge and having them. But definitely, we did put them on our stories, but not on our feed. So yeah, that's a great idea that you just gave me. So thanks again.
What other marketing branding questions can I answer for you before we get out of here? Anything?
Brendan. I feel like you just answered everything already. I don't know what else. Mm, I don't know. What else? Do you also go off like offline? Like let's say TV or like papers. Do you have like journal paper? Do you
Um,
have any
one thing that I've been,
lead?
what was the last part?
Yeah, any leads on how we can also reach out those like audiences?
So one way that I've been really pushing lately is on the back of my phone, this little thing here. It's called a popple. Have you heard of these
Pommel.
yet?
Oh no.
What this is it's essentially like a little stick-on QR code. So if you're in a meeting with somebody or you're in a class and you kind of strike up a conversation about who you are and your organization, they're interested, instead of having to give them a business card that
Mhm.
says this is my website, my information, all these things, or even a QR code that's a real simple scan it and you go. What this
Mhm.
does is, as long as they have a newer phone, it'll instantly open up a thing on the top where they
Mm.
click it, and it will go to a like a kind of like a link tree,
Mm.
and it would have all the
Mm.
different things that you want, whether it be a donate button, a contact, any of your social.
Mhm.
There's a
Mhm.
bunch of different integrations.
Yeah.
I've been really liking those lately. I'm kind of getting off my QR. I was all about everybody needs business cards with QR codes, but
Mhm.
I've lost and broken and bent up so many business cards and wasted them,
Yeah.
that to just
Yeah.
have something, you always have your phone. You might not always have a
Yeah.
business
Yeah.
card, but
Yeah. So
just
is this like if you were to show me this, do I need another like bubble as well to be able to get the information, or
no,
that's just on your side?
as you have a newer phone, I think as long as it's like an iPhone 8 or ish,
Oh.
somewhere within there, then it just pops easy. If you have an older phone, then it's kind of a bit of a pain.
Mm.
But it's one of
Gotcha.
those, just to have that in your arsenal, to still have a business card too, but
Mm.
then to also have this for business card for the older person, the more modern person. You see they have a
Yeah.
new flashy phone. You're like, hey, just hold out your phone real quick. And as long as you go like that, they'll get all your information as soon as they
Okay. So where do I get that?
I could send you a link when we're all done with it.
Okay. Perfect.
They're like 20 bucks, one
Uh
time
huh.
done. If your organization grows, they've got deals where if you get like 50 or 60 or more, then you could put your logo on them and make them all fancy.
Mhm.
But if you're trying to get as far as offline, I don't
Mhm.
think TV is a good one, because nobody that's actually sitting around watching TV cares to hear that they're a lazy
Mhm.
slob. Um,
Mhm.
I'm big on SEO, as far as still being online, making sure
Mhm.
that your keyword, your website and everything's keyword optimized is huge. Uh,
Mm.
but for you guys personally, I think focusing on digital is the way to go, unless you have a specific area that you know that you want to go and do a specific program at. Then
Mm.
that's where doing more paper mailers, or there's a lot of different more traditional means. But developing content that's giving value is going to be the biggest thing, more so than, don't sponsor an ad that says you could donate here to help people in
Mhm.
Madagascar. Nobody
Mhm.
cares. But if you could keep putting out every day. You do it like I said, kind of that 1 minute, 2 minute, however many long audio thing. You
Mm-hmm.
also start to put together kind of an emotional needs handbook or something like
Mm.
that to then give the way that people always do. Here, download this free ebook, but give us
Mm.
your email address so we can send you updates about
Mm.
how we're helping. So you're giving content and products
Value.
in the way of education, and you're either giving those away or at least sell them at cost or a little bit above, however you want to do
Mm.
that. But
Yeah.
by giving the value of just teaching people or making the videos, I would say, I don't know how many high schools you've gone into, but I remember every video in high school being like 20 years before we got there and just so corny you didn't pay attention to the message. If you could find a modern, hip way to get these concepts on video and then
Mm.
send those videos to schools to say,
Mm-hmm.
whether it's a YouTube link or a package, however you want to do it, but
Mm-hmm.
to make a something that's easy to watch as a kid, so where you're not like, oh boy,
Yeah.
we're gonna go learn about feelings again. Kind of just but something that once you're watching it, it really gets somebody's attention. And getting content is going to be king, because in business,
Yeah.
you want an educated consumer. They're going to be your best shopper. And
Yeah.
in nonprofit, the better educated they are and the more value you give them.
Hmm.
If you gave me 40 tips on how to be a better person, and then on the 41st time I saw your thing, it said, hey, you could donate here to help us with our mission to get more content, more people, I almost
Mm.
feel guilty that you've given me so much good information. I'm gonna be like, yeah, I'll give them
Mm.
$2 or $3 or whatever they're asking for.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. I
I would
hear
make
you.
content, make content, make content if I were you.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Definitely. I think that's the next thing to do. Thank you so much.
And
Yeah.
where can everybody find you and find your organization online after they just listen to this hour conversation and they want to go learn more?
Yeah. So they can find us in all the different platforms, from Facebook to Instagram to TikTok to YouTube, and the link. Maybe you can go right away on our Instagram, since this is going to be on Instagram, right? And they can go on Umena Movement. And then from there, you can click on our bio and find all of the different links to get into our website and all of the other platforms.
Awesome. And I always like to, the same way I had you start the interview, you get 1 minute at the end of the interview to end it on whatever way you want, whether it's promotional, inspirational. You get to send everybody away on whatever tone you want to send them. Whenever you're ready, you get 1 minute.
So much pressure when we say it that way, right?
It is, isn't it?
Well, thank you so much for listening, for being here. We are creating a movement that really promote empathy, healthy relationships, and we are inviting you to join our movement. Follow us on social media. Look at our website, umena.com. And yeah, thank you so much for your time.